Welcome back. In this session, let's work on hands-on exercises for the events. So entire session, we will be covering different examples for the events, but I would suggest you must adjust these event schedules according to your application requirements. And also make sure that MySQL event scheduler is enabled to execute these events automatically. So to enable, what we do is set global event scheduler on. Whenever you execute this, your global event scheduler will be on, and whatever the events that you scheduled on this MySQL database, that will be executed automatically on the scheduled times. So we'll go through the different examples. What are all the places where we can use the events, and these examples are only for the learning purpose. You need to visualize your requirements for your application specific events and try to work on them. The first example that I want to see is like event to archive old records. If you have the active tables, and you might be having something called an history tables, right? So if you have an active table and history table, then you should have a query which should be cleaning up the old records and putting into some archive tables, so that your active table will be well performance, right? So for that specific scenario, what we are trying to do, we are creating an event. If you want to use delimiter, okay, a $, and something like $, right? The way we are using the delimiters for the stored procedures, you can always use the delimiter, right? I can say $, and I will set the delimiter. Sorry, I did the spelling delimiter. Okay, and you are reassigning to the semicolon. So whenever you have the multiple query statements, you have to use the delimiter to make it work. Okay, you are assigning the delimiter to $, and you are ending the $, here. Okay, and you are starting the new delimiter again. So coming to the event, create event, archive old records, okay, on scheduled every 1 week, which is starting from 24/01/01 and at 12 at midnight, right? So what it has to do, whenever this scheduled event invoked, right, it has to do what we have to do, insert into archived employee, right, by taking all the records from the employee table, okay, based on the last updated. So if the last updated is in less than 1 year, okay, so I mean to say, if any record, employee record, which is not updated for last 1 year, we have to have that record moved to the archived employee table, and we will be recording that record out of this employee database, which is an active database that you have. This is one of the very simple trigger that you can create to archive your old records into the different table, right? So now the another way of creating the triggers is actually another way of creating the events is actually like whenever you want to update the statistics. Okay, so whenever you have the statistics, update statistics, so what you have an table employee, you want to analyze the employee table, employee address table. Same way I would say, like, we have to have the delimiters everywhere, right? So that it would be easy. Delimiter semicolon, right? So you should have the delimiters to when you have the multiple statements. Sorry for that, we can update whenever we are looking into that. So create event, update statistics, so on scheduled every day, okay, starts from the current timestamp, and it start analyzing these tables, and based on this analyzing the tables, it will give the statistics, and provide the statistics to you, right? That is the one way of having the events created. Another one, third example, so that you can do events that can be created, right? So events can be created, I would say, like let me copy the delimiter just to avoid the errors on this query. Yeah, create events, send reports. So if you want to get the reports on monthly basis, you can still configure them within the database, and start date also you have to mention from when you have to start triggering the reports, right? So basically I'm getting the recipients email addresses we will get, and we get the reports generated with CSV, and then we will actually send an email to the user. So there would be a table, reporting table. So from that reporting table, actually we can fetch the data and generate an Excel sheet, okay, into an output file, which is a CSV, comma separated values, and send an email to the recipients. This is another way of creating the events in the MySQL database. Most of the times these kind of events, to have a better control, applications in real-time world, application teams will create their own schedulers in their own programming language and try to fetch the data out of from the database and generate the reports using the programming languages. But that is one of the way that most of the developers would prefer, rather than avoiding the complexities or putting the load onto the database. Okay, it's up to you based on your use case, that you can always use whatever the scenario that you want, but it will be help if you configure the events on the databases. It will be more like performance hit on the database, because it's a load, it increases the load on the database when you have the files handling and all those things, right? Another way of creating the event, so if you want to perform the daily database maintenance, you can still do that. So for that, you schedule some event and you will be writing the optimize table queries to perform the maintenance for your particular database, right? So another query, so if you want to perform a regular backups, I think we discussed this in the starting point, but still if you want to have a regular backup on every day, you can still do that. You can have created a backup files. So for that you need to create your own commands, okay, to create the backup files. We will be learning about these creating a backup and all those things in the next upcoming sessions. That's why I'm not covering full details here, but when we actually get into the implementation, then we will see like how you can back up your database on daily basis to avoid the crashing of the database issues. Okay, so these are the different scenarios that we have discussed, very simple and straightforward scenarios where the events being useful for your use case. Okay, and if you want to alter any of the event, you can use the alter event. Okay, generate monthly report, you can change, right, on schedule every 2 months. Instead of having monthly report, you change the every 2 months, right? So other way, I think you can also say every 7 days, weekly reports, right? Every 7th day or 7 day, you can even fetch the reports by altering your event. Okay, and if you want to drop in any event, you can see like you can drop event if exist, and delete all records. If the delete all records event is exist, then it will drop that particular record out of that database. So drop event if exist, the record is not available, event is not available, so that's why it throw the warning for us. If you want to see all the events that are available for that particular database, you can always use the show events. As of now, I have not executed the event queries because we will be covering those queries when we get into the next sessions in detail. So that's why I haven't executed. but if you execute, all the events that we created here will be visible on this particular table when we execute the show events option or show events query, right? So these are the basic various scenarios where you can use these to create the events for your particular database. So based on your use case, you can go and implement the events for your application specific needs. So thank you for watching. We will meet in the next session.